Okay, so I've come across a few different videos that kind of ties in some things that I've had questions about on this whole Kirk situation. Now, if you don't have an open mind, this video might not be for you because this goes into having a little bit of spiritual discernment and thinking outside the box of the norm, right? So the first clips I'm going to play is from a channel called Elizabeth April. She's a psychic medium. She does remote viewing. I don't know a lot about her. I just randomly came across her channel. Now, I've watched videos of psychics or mediums remote viewing into the spiritual realm or the astral realm to get different information, which this is a real thing. Our own government, the CIA, have had and has an astral projection program. There's a guy on YouTube that talks about the guy that helped found the program. So it's an actual real thing that the government has co-signed and said, yes, this is something, a tool that we've used to gather intel or information. So she goes in and she's going to say some crazy things about going astral projecting into the spiritual realm, speaking with Charlie Kirk and Erika Kirk. This is the weird part about this because Erika Kirk's spirit should not have crossed over. She's still alive. So I'm going to play some clips from that. Then I'm going to play a clip from another video that talks about how that's possible, the situation with Erika Kirk and other people. So let me just start here from this section. Like I said, I'll put the link to her channel below and the other video, but we're going to start off with clips from her video. So this is 7 minutes and 20 seconds in. So just bear with me and follow along to the end to get the whole story. So check this out.
Just keep an open mind. That's all I'm gonna say because it's weird, okay? And it's like, this is my world, and I've seen some pretty crazy stuff, and yet I am still a skeptic, and I'm still hard-pressed to fully accept certain situations. This is what I saw. This is who I communicated with. Take it or leave it. When I dropped into the remote view and I wanted to gather information around specifically Erika Kirk and Candace Owens, Charlie came through once again. I did not want to talk to him or was looking to talk to him, but he came through. And to my shock, Erika Kirk was there with him. I know, take it or leave it. But I was very confused because we understand Charlie Kirk is on the other side. His spirit has crossed over, you know, he's in that place, whatever you want to call it, heaven or whatever. He's in that place. And right beside him was his wife, Erika Kirk. And so, of course, my first question was, what are you doing here? I'm pretty sure you're currently running a book tour or whatever. Why are you here? And so because of what I've seen before, I was wondering, did they, there could be many different things as to why she was on the other side. Obviously, my first thought was, did they have a clone of you? Do they have a body double? Like, did they replace you, essentially? Because apparently they do that a lot these days, and I have videos on clones if you're interested in that. So that was kind of my first thinking, but that's actually not what happened. And I don't know exactly why they didn't replace her with a clone. Sometimes it takes quite a while to like initiate a clone body. I know it's weird, but it's kind of like uploading a whole new, like you're programming a whole
Clone
new
technology has
person in
been
a
proven.
different body.
It's
Anyway,
doable and has
I'm not
been
sure.
done.
I'm not sure if they just didn't have a clone of Erika Kirk. I don't know what happened there, but essentially it was more of like a possession or a body snatching, like I call it body snatching, but like essentially what happened was there was another entity that took over her original body, which is what they used to do a lot in the past, especially when it comes down to shadow government groups or the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them. One of their, I didn't really get immediately that it was like a reptilian that took over her or just like an entity, whatever it is. It's obviously dark and gross and shadowy, but it actually.
So that point she's talking about right there, I'm just going to pause it for 1 second. After I play her clips, I'm going to play a clip of some information supporting the technology or the reason behind this, because this is a question I've had myself. When you see different things and you're trying to figure out what is really going on, something does not look right with this person or with a person's eyes, and you see these anomalies happening on camera that just no one can explain. So I'm going to play that after I play this. So just stick with me.
Actually took over her real body, and in doing so, it kicked her soul out of her real body, and now she's on the other side. Like the real Erika Kirk is on the other side. And I will say, just because I do get impressions from spirits on the other side, she seemed like a truly caring, loving, like honest, authentic person. And I don't know her work. I don't know who she is. But as a spirit from that side, it felt like she was actually a really good match for Charlie, because he felt like same thing, a very compassionate, very like just very much so about his mission, but also those two together and their family was something else. And that was real. Whoever is in her body right now, that's not her. That is not her. And that kind of takeover or that body snatching happened quite quickly after. And we're going to talk about the process of how that happened, because I had to ask them questions. I was just curious. I was just very curious. We're going to talk about how that happened, but I guess that happened quite soon after he was assassinated and taken out. The first thing when I saw them on the other side, Charlie I've already talked to, but Erika, the main thing that was her concern, like she was in a panic, like she was quite frantic on the other side. And her biggest number one concern was her children, is her children. And as a, oh, I'm not gonna cry. As a mother myself, to be in that position where like essentially, like who's taking care of her children if that's not her in that body, right? And so they are very concerned about the well-being of their children. And I think their number one biggest concern is, are their children going to be used as pawns, you know? So she was unbelievably concerned, for good reason, about the well-being and the caretaking of her children, because she's not here anymore. Oh, okay. So my first question, well, I guess after that information came through, is because I was just curious. And I really posed this question to Charlie first, and then I went over to Erika after. And my question was, did you sign up for this? Because yes, I understand shadow government. Yes, I understand Illuminati. Yes, I understand the powers that were, that still are a little bit. But like there's free will as well. So I had to get their perspective on, this is really fucked up, but did you sign up for this? And so yes, he actually gave me the visual, the clip, the memory of what happened at that time. And so I won't give you all the details or all the imagery that came through. I'll give you a couple of clips though. So he said, yes, he did sign a contract, but he was unaware of what he was signing at the time. He said that it was in or around 2012, which was a really big turning point for his career. And essentially, he was approached by, I don't know if it was like another politician or if it was like a leader that he revered. And this sort of older leader took him under his wing and said, I think you've got the stuff, kid. I think you've got what it's going to take.
That's kind of exactly what was said to him.
And in order to do so, you've got to sign these documents. Now, as a politician or a budding politician, you're signing your name on a lot of documents.
But there was a billionaire that.
And so he said, yes, there was a moment where I signed documents to be a part of something, and I had no idea what I was getting involved in. So it's like there was consent, but it was not conscious consent, if you could say. I've also seen a very similar dynamic in the music industry as well, is that they sign these contracts, which is very normal for musicians, especially budding musicians who want to make it. They don't understand the extent of what they're signing, and unfortunately, that it doesn't give away your free will because you can't, but it sort of obligates them and hooks them into this organization. So that's what he said. He said it was 2012 where he signed a contract, and in his mind, he said that he really felt like it was going to be for the betterment of humanity. Those are the words that I wrote down here. He said he felt like it was going to be for the betterment of humanity, and I see him in this room with this other gentleman signing this paper, these paperworks. I don't know. So then I had to ask him, at the end, right? So you were not aware of this at the beginning, and you were young, and your career was just getting started, and you had high hopes for you were going to change the world. So I said, at the end of your career, were you aware of active engagement with said shadow government? Were you aware that you were not a pawn, but kind of playing their game? And here's what he said. So the last 3 years, there was an organization or a group, okay? He didn't go into what group or organization that was. Once again, let's just call it the shadow government, because no matter what country, no matter what religion, no matter what culture, no matter what language, the shadow government, this government behind the scenes, right? They rule everything. Like, countries do not matter when we're talking about the shadow government. So he said, the last 3 years, this group was pushing their narrative, okay? They were pushing this narrative on him that they wanted him to comply to, and then they wanted him to essentially push that narrative out. He said that of the content that he produced, like 80 to 90% was him, and he felt good about that, but 10 to 20% was this other narrative coming through. And just personally, it's a side note, but when we think about, say, pawns in politics or celebrities or musicians or what, like influential figures, like I kind of always assume, yep, if they've joined the Illuminati, if they've signed those contracts, if they're doing the rituals, then they're all in. I kind of just assume that they are completely a 100% pawn. You kind of don't think about the fact that they also do have their own voice. And it was just fascinating to talk to Charlie for him to be like, they did allow me to have my own voice. Like I was like 80 to 90% free to be me, but there was that other part. And so it almost opens up this lens and this perspective for us, okay, as observers of this reality, to ask ourselves, what percentage of this person, I don't want to say what percentage of this person is authentic and what percentage is taken over, or what percentage of this person is authentic versus what percentage of this person is a pawn. It's just, before I'd be like, yeah, oh, for sure, Illuminati. And I just assume that all music, all interviews, everything is dictated by that. Talking to Charlie, I realized that there are actually quite a few figures who kind of have their own voice in a sense, but they still have this obligation. Anyway, sorry, that was a little bit of a rant. It really kind of opened something up in me. Anyway, so then I had to ask him, have you ever done rituals? Because when I take a look at musicians and I take a look at other huge political figureheads, there are we're talking really disturbing rituals, okay, that go into what they have to do in order to be a part of this top secret
A lot
shadow
of people
government
have testified
group.
to being a part of this.
Many
and
videos on these
explained a
rituals
lot of
if
these
you want to get
rituals.
gross, okay? They're on my website. They're not on YouTube. So I asked him, I said, have you ever had to do rituals? Because he seemed a little naive. Like he seemed like,
this is not real.
yeah,
a
this
lot of people
group,
that have
you know, who I was kind of
testified to
obligated to was telling me what to say, but I still had some freedom. Like he just didn't seem very aware of what he was involved in, even at the end. And
kind of naive to the overall
he said no.
agenda.
What did he say? Actually, I wrote it down. Hold on. Yeah, never looked like rituals. There was never rituals involved. There was never like blood sacrifice stuff. There was never your stereotypical shadow government Illuminati stuff, which is fascinating once again. Okay, then he went on to say, which is fascinating, he said whenever he complied to their wishes, he would get a boost in, what did he say? A boost in audience and a boost in funding. So every time he complied with that 10 to 20% of what they wanted, this group wanted, he would get a boost in audience and a boost in funding. And
that goes back to where a lot of content creators like myself and people that are bigger than me always question, who is this person? Where did they come from? And why are they showing up on my algorithm now? Why are their videos everywhere? Because there has to be money behind it to push your content. Even right now, I'm looking and running new ads. Okay, if you want to get put out between so many thousands of people, $200 is going to give you this many impressions or this many views or this, put it in front of this many people. Money behind it gets you out in front of the people. There has to be some type of money behind the content to grow or get your platform bigger besides being organic. You can do it organically, but there's a ceiling you're going to hit.
It was only really at the end where he kind of put two and two together and realized, oh, this probably isn't of my own doing, even though a lot of it was, 80 to 90%, but there are some other forces that are essentially pushing me out to the world every time I comply with what it is that they want. He also mentioned that, this is fascinating, I never thought about it like this. He said many young political figures sign these contracts and they don't even realize what they sign, okay? He said many young political figures sign contracts, they don't realize what they sign, and it's almost like 1 in 5 or 1 in 10 of these young political figures actually go on to do something or to be someone, and at that point in time is when the influence of these unseen forces step in a much bigger way and exert their influence in a much bigger way. Once again, it's fascinating. What I've seen in say, Justin Bieber or Britney Spears is that these young kids are signing contracts and they are groomed to be the thing, the person. This is changing my perspective on how they do things. In, I guess, politics, or at least in Charlie's world, they get a lot of young politicians to sign contracts early on, and then they only ever execute sort of the control dynamics in those contracts if that person really does grow to be promising. Fascinating. It's just interesting. As always, guys, take it or leave it. Okay. So he says, this goes deeper than I ever knew. And he had so much regret about that. And then
this is what the average
he
person is
says,
starting to realize, that a
this
lot
is
of
where
this is
he warns
deeper
me. And it was
than
a
what you could
very
even think.
stern warning. And he said, I don't recommend that you talk about this. Like, I'm like halfway through this remote view, and I'm obviously pulling interesting information that I think could really help open up people's world to what is happening. It's obviously opening up my world, and I do this for a living. And then he tells me, you know, that I'm not safe in talking about this, and that he kind of assumed that he was safe until he wasn't. And he said that if there was one thing that he wishes he changed, was to put his family and his safety first above the political agenda, because that's what got him at the end. And so I had to really tune into kind of myself and my own contracts and tune into, do I feel safe in relaying this information? And like I said, I did. I do in my contracts, and I'm hoping that most people just think I'm absolutely batshit crazy, and that's a little bit of a safety net for me. Okay. So then he was expressing, and obviously Erika was expressing, that they really wish that she wasn't being used as a pawn. Like, it's like pour salt in the wound, you know? So then I had to ask, did Erika sign contracts, right? Because here we have Erika's soul on the other side with Charlie, and yet her body is being completely taken over and possessed by whatever entity or
weird.
reptilian, you know, is kind of in her body right now. And that doesn't just happen. You have to sort of give up your right to your body, which usually requires signing contracts. That's how they originally did it before cloning was a thing. So they're going old school on this case. And she said that, yes, she did sign contracts, and that part of the contract, so she signed contracts super, super recently, and it was almost right after Charlie's assassination, where she signed these contracts, which was kind of in lieu of this. It was almost like, will you take over Turning Point, and will you take over Charlie's mission? And she's like, yes. And then she signed these contracts unwittingly, had no idea that she was kind of signing her body over, and immediately they stepped in and took her over, and started fully. It's interesting because they were talking about.
Now, just to interject for a second, if you look at a lot of videos of her recently, I knew nothing about her, or I didn't know nothing about this case until this situation happened. And this is my first video on this. I've avoided this. My channel is mostly music, music business, music stuff related, music celebrities, people, executives, stuff like that. I do a lot of truth stuff also, but all the videos of Erika, there's something everybody's been pointing out, how there's something weird going on with her eyes. There's weird anomalies caught on camera happening with her eyes that doesn't happen with the everyday average person. All these TikTok videos, YouTube videos, all these shorts, all these reels you see of people just doing videos, you don't see these anomalies in every everyday average person. So there's something super weird, and people say they get a creepy vibe just seeing like her eyes, like just like looking at her. Every person that has done interviews about this topic says, hey, there's something off about her, something super off. So that's why I wanted to highlight this.
About everything that Charlie did not want to do, that they wanted him to do, they're just making Erika, and I say that in quotations, do, because now they have full possession over her body and full influence over his network. I'm just going to put it out there that she might start saying some really bizarre things, some really just on the edge stuff, because that's what happens. That's what they do. They have full freedom, full reins over a body and sort of an influential group of people to just spew that information. Question everything is all I got to say. Okay. So yeah, unfortunately, she did sign contracts, and she signed them quite recently. Now let's talk about Candace Owens here for a second. For those of you who don't know, she is her own sort of influencer. I don't know much about her or her content at all. What do I say about her? She kind of exposes like corruption in politics, I guess is how I would describe it. And like I said, I don't know much about her, but she was actually a really big advocate and friend of Charlie Kirk, and then an advocate of his organization. And now Candace Owens is a really big Charlie about she had to go into hiding. I don't know what the mainstream is talking about with Candace Owens, but like just recently in the past couple months, like she had to basically get out of wherever she was at because she was being followed or hunted down or targeted. And it was fascinating because when it comes to Candace Owens, I don't want to say like too big to fail, but there are so many eyes on Candace Owens right now that if anything were to happen to her, everyone would know. Everyone would know that one of these groups got to her. And unfortunately, her life is still in danger, like seriously in danger. And then Charlie also said she knows the risks, but he doesn't think that she's taking them seriously enough. Like he's like, yeah, she knows what she's getting into. She knows the risks. She knows that there are groups of people after her, but
she's underestimating
she's not taking it seriously enough.
Situation.
And she's so sort of bullheaded on her mission of exposing the corruption, which, hey, good for her, but also kind of like Charlie, like he did not understand the extent or the seriousness of the game that he was playing.
Things going on in the background.
Anyway, what
They're
else?
focused on the mission ahead, but not paying attention to the moves being made.
So Charlie said that he would tell her to stop investigating his case. Like that's what he would want to relate to her. Stop investigating my case. It's not worth it. And if anything, there are bigger things going on that if she were to take the time to investigate and expose, do that instead. Because, and I think
the Erika we see now had said that's the first thing she said in the interview. Like, what would your message be? She said, stop, just stop. That's it. Basically, like, look, stop now. Because if not, it can get ugly.
I actually put it on my next page here. Yeah, it's my next question to him.
The crazy stop.
So we're just getting to the end here. Actually,
I'm trying to be super vague but super threatening,
which are powerful. A couple of announcements, guys. If this makes you anxious, please go check out my recent book, Your Anxiety is Giving Me tour coming up. I will be in on January.
Okay, let's get.
The question is, what would you have done differently? And his answer, and it was so clear, he would have spoken up about the narrative behind politics. And he feels really regretful because he didn't know. He's like, but I didn't know. I didn't know that there was so much going on behind the scenes. He's like, I thought my mission was clear. I thought the information was clear. I thought I was making a real change in the world. And I think he did make such a big change in the world. But he's regretful because he was so focused on one side of things that he didn't realize that there was a back end until it was too late. And that's kind of why he's coming through with this almost a desperate message to Candace Owens to be like, stop getting caught up in the sides, look behind the scenes, like use your investigative skills to really figure out what's going on. And if you're going to risk your life, expose that instead, if that makes sense. And then he said, so he would have spoken up around the narrative behind politics. He said, but I didn't know, and I wouldn't have been allowed anyway. So either way, right? And then I said, what is a message that you want to leave people off with? And this is important. These are actually so key. Number one, enjoy your families. Oh, breaks my heart. It really does. Number two, be kind to each other. Number three, think for yourself. And number four, question the motives behind politics. Couldn't have said it better myself.
I think that's what we're all doing
literally
right now.
Lots of love to Charlie Kirk, Erika Kirk, her children, their children. And this video was important to do so that you better understand the inner workings and the back end workings of what we're dealing with. If I didn't think it was that important, I wouldn't be here risking that safety. But I think that we need to all step up, question these narratives, understand that not everyone we see is corrupt and taken over, but there are a lot of forces at play, and we just have to question everything.
Okay, so I'm going to end that video there. Let me continue on to the rest of this because I'm trying to keep this as short as possible. So this is another channel called Beyond the Veil. I'll put the links to these below. I'm going to try to just like go through the highlights of this. So where are we at? 508. All right, so let me start off at the beginning of them showing clips of some of these anomalies. This is just tying in to try to explain what she said she witnessed with Erika Kirk's soul or spirit, like speaking with her spirit in astral projecting in the spirit realm. and being confused because Erika's still alive. How could her spirit crossed over, being on the other side? There's only one explanation that I know of, is that something pushed her soul out of her body and is using her body like a vehicle. Because at the end of the day, our bodies are just an actual vehicle. It's a bag of flesh vehicle that our souls encompass and grow in and control. So this video goes into great detail on how that's possible. So I'll start at the beginning and then I'll kind of skip through it. And it shows some clips of Trump to start with. All right, check this out.
Expressions. You know this feeling. It is a biological alarm bell ringing deep in your hindbrain. Evolutionary psychologists call it the uncanny valley, the revulsion you feel when looking at something that appears human but is missing the spark of life. But what if that instinct is not a mistake? What if it is a survival mechanism? You are not looking at a human being. You are looking at a biological suit, a hollow shell being piloted by something else entirely. For decades, we have called them elites, leaders, or celebrities. We analyze their policies and their art, assuming they think like us. This is the first fatal error. They do not possess a mammalian brain structure. They are operating on a predatory frequency that your mind is programmed to ignore, but the camouflage is failing. In the last 5 years, high-definition cameras have captured thousands of anomalies.
This is not
eyes
normal.
Shifting into vertical slits,
Eyes
skin
open
losing its
while
texture,
the eyes are closed.
limbs moving with impossible, disjointed fluidity. These are not camera artifacts. These are the glitches of a possession in progress. To understand who is ruling your world, you must understand the concept of the walk-in. In the esoteric traditions, the physical body is merely a container, a vehicle. For the average person, the soul is locked to the body at the moment of birth. But for the ruling bloodlines, the body is a temporary asset. They view the human vessel as we view a rental car. When the original occupant becomes inconvenient, or when the bloodline requires a system upgrade, the original soul is ejected. This is not science fiction. This is the core secret of the mystery schools dating back to Babylon. They call it soul scalping. It is the technological and ritualistic removal of a human consciousness to make room for an interdimensional parasite. But here is the terrifying question you should be asking. How do they get in? A human soul does not just leave. It clings to the body with immense force. To evict a soul requires a trauma so severe, a terror so absolute, that the spirit shatters. We will reveal the exact method of this fracturing and...
So before this goes on, so the human eyes, we can only see a small spectrum of light. The spectrum, like they're going to show a graph of the spectrum, the light spectrum. We only see a narrow portion of that. So the question has always been, what is on the outside on the rest of that light spectrum that we can't see, because we are kind of handicapped in a sense. But people that have astral projected, or people that have died, or people that have seen beyond the physical, other realms, other dimensions, they said that there's these entities that are in these other dimensions outside of our physical that are real living things, and that feed or live off of a lot of the energy that we produce, whether it be emotions, anger, sadness, depression, like these entities live off this, and they call that loosh. It was a term coined years back by somebody that I can't even remember how or why, but they coined it, energy source as food, named loosh. So this video goes into these entities on the outside of realms of other dimensions, or on the outside of our physical, that can somehow encompass into a human body, which if our spirit or soul can be born into a physical body, it's possible that something else can.
And the Project MK Ultra connection later in this video. The entities we are dealing with are often referred to as reptilian, but that is a simplification of a fourth dimensional biology. These creatures exist in a density just outside your visible spectrum. They are energy parasites. They cannot interact with this physical reality with money, with politics, with war, unless they have a hand to hold the pen and a finger to pull the trigger. They need a host. But the integration process is flawed. You have seen the bruises, the Black Eye Club. Why do so many royals, popes, and politicians appear in public with a black bruise specifically on the left eye? The media tells you it was a fall, a clumsy accident. The truth is far more surgical. There is ships. This is the second fatal error. They are not extraterrestrial in the way Hollywood has conditioned you to believe. They are interdimensional. They are not coming from another planet. They are coming from another density. Physics tells us that visible light is a tiny
This
sliver of
breaks
the
it down right
electromagnetic spectrum. We know that radio waves, gamma rays, and X-rays exist all around us, invisible but real. These entities operate on a similar principle, residing in the lower fourth dimension.
Right here. So here's like the
This is a
visible light spectrum. We can tiny sliver of the light spectrum, and then the rest of this is an invisible spectrum that we can't see. We know gamma rays are real. It's just like oxygen. You can't see oxygen or feel oxygen, but we breathe oxygen to live. It's the exact same principle. When you have to like do an analogy, you have radio waves. Radio waves, you communicate a lot of communications run off of radio waves, different frequencies. Even music runs off of frequencies, different wavelengths. So you can communicate through these radio waves. You can't physically see the radio waves, but we know it's something real because it's something we could tune in with an instrument and communicate through. So that's the analogy to try to get you to understand if you're having a hard time wrapping your head around this concept. Like I said, it's not for the basic thinker. That this is for the open-minded people or people that have some type of spiritual discernment or are on the verge of getting spiritual discernment.
Frequency band that sits just above our physical reality, vibrating between 4 and 7 hertz. In this state, they are like smoke. They have consciousness, they have intent, and they have hunger, but they lack mass. They cannot pick up a weapon. They cannot sign a treaty.
Like
they cannot extract gold from the ground.
Sub-bass or bass
to manipulate the
frequency
physical
in music
world, they need a glove.
like
and that glove
80 to
is
30
the human
hertz,
body.
like low frequency
The Gnostics,
vibration.
2,000
bass.
years ago, wrote about this explicitly in the Nag Hammadi library. They called these entities archons, the rulers.
The archon.
They described them as mind parasites, inorganic beings that envy the human
Even the
ability to
Egyptians
create.
wrote about them.
Because they exist in a lower entropy state. They are cut off from the source of creation. They are biologically incapable of generating their own light. They are a dying species, perpetually starving, looking at our reality like a freezing man looks at a fire. This infestation is not new. It is the hidden thread of all human history. In ancient Sumer, they were the Anunnaki, the ones who came from heaven to earth, not to uplift us, but to enslave us. They established the first royal bloodlines, the divine right of kings, which was simply a contract. The humans gave the entities access to physical rule, and in exchange, the entities gave the humans forbidden knowledge, technology, math, agriculture. The tools of civilization were given to us solely to make us better workers. This pact formed the Brotherhood of the Snake, the oldest secret society on Earth. It has changed names 1,000 times, from the mystery schools of Babylon to the Knights Templar to the modern Committee of 300, but the master remains the same. The handshake has never been broken. The elite families we see today are the direct genetic descendants of those first hybrid bloodlines. They are bred for compatibility. They keep their bloodlines pure, not out of snobbery, but out of biological necessity. A Rh-negative blood type with high copper content is a better conductor for the fourth dimensional frequency. It holds the possession better. If you put a high voltage entity into a low voltage nervous system, the fuse blows. The body dies. This is why they are obsessed with genealogy. We mentioned in the last section that these entities require a substance to survive. We spoke of the chemical supplement, but the chemical is just the physical manifestation of their true food source. The substance is merely a battery. The true power is loosh. Loosh is a term coined by Robert Monroe to describe emotional energy.
That's the name.
Remember, these beings are cut off from the divine source. They have no internal battery. They must steal energy to survive. And the most potent form of energy in the universe is high-intensity human emotion. But they cannot digest love or joy. Those frequencies are too high. They vibrate too fast. These entities are bottom feeders. They feed on low-frequency waves, terror, anxiety, pain, rage, and sexual depravity. This explains the state of the world. You look at the endless wars, the manufactured pandemics, the media-driven panic, and you think it is incompetence? You think it is just greed? No. It is a farming technique. The world is structured to maximize the production of loosh. When you are afraid, you are bleeding energy. When you are fighting your neighbor, you are serving dinner. They are not just ruling you, they are eating you. The adrenochrome, the physical blood harvested from a terrorized victim, is simply loosh in liquid form. It is the concentrated essence of fear.
It's kind of the concept of the movie with Neo, The Matrix. They have all these human bodies stacked in these pods, and the human body or soul or spirit is being used as batteries that's fueling this huge machine or this huge world. Like, this is kind of saying like that's kind of the concept behind that.
A superdrug that allows a fourth-dimensional ghost to anchor itself firmly in a third-dimensional body. So we have a parasitic race that feeds on fear, inhabiting the bodies of our leaders to farm us for energy. Why don't we see them? Because they have constructed a frequency fence. They have tuned our reality through fluoride, through electromagnetic smog, through the media, to lock our perception into a tiny bandwidth. They are standing right next to you, but your radio dial is tuned to the wrong station. However, simply having the right bloodline and the right energy source is not enough to execute a full takeover. You cannot just shove a reptile soul into a healthy human vessel. The human soul is stubborn. It is resilient.
Okay, so this is the part that can kind of explain what that medium was saying about Erika Kirk's spirit being pushed out of her physical body. Let me run that back for a second.
A healthy human vessel. The human soul is stubborn. It is resilient. It occupies the space fully. To put the intruder in, you must first carve out a hole. You must shatter the original occupant so completely that they retreat into the furthest corners of their own mind, leaving the driver's seat empty. This is the darkest part of the agenda. It is not something that happens to adults. It begins in the nursery. It requires a systematic fracturing of the mind, known as trauma-based mind control. How do they turn a human child into an empty vessel waiting for a pilot? The answer lies in the classified files of Project MK and the horrific science of dissociation. Physics dictates that two objects cannot occupy the same space at the same time. This law applies to consciousness as rigidly as it applies to matter. A cohesive, integrated human soul is a powerful electromagnetic force. It fills every corner of the biological vessel. It is anchored to the pineal gland, the heart, and the gut brain. If an entity tries to force its way into a healthy, integrated adult, the immune system of the soul, the will repels it instantly. The host would die, or the entity would be burned out by the mismatched frequency. To pour new wine, one must first empty the cup. The vessel must be hollowed out. This is why the recruitment for the elite does not begin in adulthood. You cannot take a 30-year-old man and turn him into a vessel. It is too late. The concrete has set. The process requires a mind that is still soft, malleable, and capable of a biological defense mechanism known as dissociation. When the human mind is subjected to trauma that is too horrific to process, it does not die. It splits. It creates a firewall. The core personality retreats, hiding deep in the subconscious to survive, leaving the body running on autopilot. This autopilot state is the vacancy sign the entities are looking for. In 1953, the CIA officially sanctioned Project MK. The public story is that they were testing LSD for truth serums. This is the cover story. The true purpose was to refine the ancient dark arts of soul fragmentation into a repeatable science. They discovered that through electroshock, sensory deprivation, and ritualistic abuse, they could force the human mind to shatter into distinct, isolated compartments. They call these compartments altars. Think of a computer hard drive partitioned into separate drives. One partition holds the public face, the charismatic politician you see on the news. Another partition holds the family man, but deep in the back, behind heavy amnesia barriers, lies the dark altar. This compartment is kept intentionally empty, a blank slate stripped of morality, memory, and humanity. It is a psychological glove compartment designed to hold the entity. When the ritual begins, the handler uses a trigger phrase or a specific hand sign to bring this empty partition to the front. The soul retreats. The empty shell combined with the copper-based anomalies found in these lineages, creates a unique electromagnetic field around the body. It acts as a beacon and a binding agent. A standard human body repels the reptilian frequency. The Rh-negative body accepts it. It is the difference between a magnet repelling another magnet or snapping onto it. They breed for this trait, because without it, the soul swap is impossible. The entity would slide right out of the body. They are not protecting their money. They are protecting their capacity to be possessed. So we have the vessel. The mind has been shattered by trauma to create a vacancy. The nervous system has been plated in gold to withstand the voltage. The bloodline has been selected for magnetic compatibility. The car is gassed up. The engine is running.
And I don't know how much I believe like this whole theory or this whole thing, but there is something weird going on with bloodlines and bloodlines being kept pure. Like even the girl years ago that did the science experiment proving that all presidents are related, all presidents come from the same bloodline. And a lot of these elites or people that come from money or wealth, lineages of wealth, all have an Rh negative blood type or some type of Rh negative blood content. And this is saying the reason why it's important keeping that bloodline pure, because that has a high copper content, and that leaves a perfect vessel for these entities to enter in and take over and push your spirit or your soul out of your own body. But there's a prepping process that has to be done, which starts to explain why there's so much child abuse or ritualistic abuse, or so much abuse of children that have been going on and nothing's never done about, or it's hidden, or it's covered up, or it's like, oh, no, we didn't find nothing there. You hear some stories of low-level rings being busted and people arrested, but never the people that run the whole gamut of the whole, that's causing the whole problem. And it makes sense because they say, like, when a person is abused as a child, it fractures the mind because they go to retreat in order to, like, try to cope with the trauma. If you've ever experienced real life trauma, some people, they freeze. You just like, oh my God, oh my gosh, oh my God. You just freeze. You don't know what to do because it's a sensory overload. You can't cope with the trauma that's going on.
And the driver's seat is empty, but the entity is still outside. It is hovering in the fourth density, scratching at the walls of our reality. The transfer cannot happen on the surface. The surface of the Earth is bathed in the Schumann resonance, a frequency of 7.83 Hz that acts as a heartbeat for biological life. This frequency is stabilizing for humans, but it is disruptive to the entity. To perform the coupling, they must descend. Deep underground military bases, or DUMBs, are not just fallout shelters. They are Faraday cages for the soul. Located miles beneath the crust, often under major airports or remote mountain ranges, these zones are magnetically null. Here, the natural vibration of the Earth is blocked, and artificial electromagnetic environments can be generated. The ceremony usually takes place in a circular chamber, lined with conductive stone, often granite or limestone, to amplify the ritual energy. 13 initiates form a circle. They are not there to watch. They are there to hold the energy grid, acting as a human battery to power the transition. In the center sits the victim, bound, drugged, and waiting for the vril. The creature used for this process is known in the inner circles as the vril. It is not the giant reptilian humanoid you see in sci-fi. It is a smaller, older biological unit, a parasitic drone carrier.
And people have talked
it resembles
about the
a lizard, but with a critical evolutionary divergence. Located at the top of its snout is a proboscis, a spiraled, fleshy quill filled with a cluster of high-density nerve endings. This proboscis is the interface tool. It is the USB drive of the dark arts.
Proboscis, I forgot his name. What was his name? Dang. The one guy that talked about seeing and witnessing the cloning centers. I forgot his name. If you guys seen the videos, you know who I'm talking about. But he said this years ago, 2012, 2011, 2010. He talked about this. He said that exact same terminology, the proboscis. It's a small thing that comes out and enters in through the eye socket. At least that's what he said.
Fleshy divergence. Located at the top of its snout is a proboscis, a spiraled, fleshy quill filled with a cluster of high-density nerve endings. This proboscis is the interface tool. It is the USB drive of the dark arts. The vril is an ancient biological machine, bred over thousands of years in the subterranean caverns of the Agartha network specifically for this one purpose. When the vril is brought into the presence of the terrified victim, it does not attack the body. It targets the entry point. It instinctively knows where the connection to the soul lies. It does not go for the jugular. It goes for the eye. The procedure is technically referred to as vril type 1. It is the most violent and irreversible form of possession. The victim is immobilized. The vril creature extends its proboscis. It enters through the eye socket, usually the left eye, as this is the pathway to the right hemisphere of the brain, the seat of intuition and spiritual connection.
Wow.
The proboscis bypasses the eyeball, sliding deep into the orbital cavity until it reaches the thin plate of bone protecting the brain. With a sudden, violent thrust, it punches through. This is the moment of death. The proboscis releases a massive, concentrated dose of the parasitic consciousness directly into the brain stem and the pineal gland. It is a biological download. The human soul, anchored to the pineal gland, is violently evicted by the sudden intrusion of this foreign frequency. The silver cord snaps. The human consciousness is ejected into the ether, often trapped in the surrounding ritual grid, to be harvested for loosh later. The body convulses, the heart stops for a moment, then restarts. But the rhythm is different. The eyes open, but the person you knew is gone. Now you understand the Black Eye Club. For years, the internet has catalogued these injuries. We are told they are clumsy. We are told they tripped in the shower. But look at the anatomy of the bruising. It is not the swelling of an impact to the brow bone. It is deep, internal hemorrhaging seeping out from the socket. This is the recovery period. After the Vril Type 1 procedure, the host body requires days or weeks to heal the trauma to the orbital socket. The tissue is damaged by the insertion of the proboscis. The entity, now piloting the body, must go into hiding while the connection stabilizes. When they re-emerge, they often wear sunglasses, or the makeup artists work overtime to conceal the yellowing bruise. But sometimes, they flaunt it. In their circles, the black eye is not an injury. It is a badge of rank. It signifies that the transition is complete. It tells other initiates, the vessel is occupied. We are in control. Once the bruising heals, the entity is in full command. This is the drone phase. They have successfully hijacked the vehicle. They have access to the victim's memories, their voice, and their motor skills, accessing the brain like a hard drive. But there is a flaw in the design. The entity is accustomed to a fourth-dimensional existence where form is fluid. It is not used to the rigid, heavy gravity of a third-dimensional biological suit. They get tired. They struggle to regulate the autonomic nervous system. This leads to what we call thermal failure. The body starts to overheat or freeze up. The skin begins to lose its elasticity at an accelerated rate, looking like melted wax. You have seen them on stage leaders who freeze for 30 seconds, unblinking, rebooting their connection to the cortex. These
So just real quick, so if you just like look up celebrities with black eyes in the past, not too long ago, the recent Pope, and then some of these, if it's reversed, it could go up as the right, but it's just the amount of celebrities, famous musicians, politicians that have over time, over the years, just end up with black eyes. And then there's no explanation or very little explanation to how or why it's happened. And then you see these people acting strange or just the point in time after their life is mad different or how they are is mad different. Now, I don't know if there's a connection with this, but from what this video is saying, it carries a significant reason why.
These are not senior moments. These are pilot errors. And if they don't get a fresh supply of high-grade energy to stabilize the suit immediately, the camouflage won't just glitch. It will completely dissolve on live television. You assume that once the possession is complete, the process is stable.
So it's telling why
is
you would see a
incorrect.
glitch within
The
a
interface
person.
between a fourth-dimensional energy form and a third-dimensional biological
And
suit
it's
is
mainly with the
volatile.
eyes.
It is not a seamless integration. It is a
The eyes
constant,
are the window
violent
to the
struggle
soul.
for dominance. Think of it like a deep-sea diver wearing a pressurized suit. The diver is the entity. The suit is the human body. The entity must constantly expend willpower to maintain the structural integrity of the human hologram. It is not automatic. It requires active, conscious focus. Every minute they spend in our density, they are fighting against the natural frequency of the host body, which wants to expel them. This is why you see them exhausted. This is why you see them stumbling. When their concentration wavers due to fatigue, surprise, or a sudden drop in their blood sugar, the holographic overlay slips. These are the moments the camera catches. The mask does not fall off completely. It flickers. Just for a microsecond, the true density reveals itself before the entity can reassert control. The most common failure point is the eye. The eyes are not just the window to the soul. They are the most energetically active part of the body. They vibrate at a frequency that is difficult for the entity to cloak. Skeptics will tell you that the vertical pupils seen on live television are merely pixelation errors or light compression artifacts. But ask yourself, why does the artifact always shapeshift into the exact biological geometry of a reptile? Why does it never pixelate into a square or a triangle? It is always a vertical slit. This is biology, not technology. The entity is a predator. When it gets excited, or when it spots a threat, its true predatory nature surges to the surface. The pupil constricts to focus, just as a viper's does before a strike. The holographic software cannot keep up with the speed of this biological reaction. The cloak lags behind the reality, and for 1/30th of a second, you see the predator staring back at you. We spoke earlier of the decay. The human immune system is a powerful defender. Even with the soul removed, the white blood cells recognize the reptilian energy signature as a foreign pathogen. The body begins to attack itself. It tries to reject the pilot. This leads to rapid cellular necrosis. The skin turns gray, the organs begin to fail, and the flesh starts to smell of sulfur and rot. To halt this process, the entity requires a biological fixative. They need a substance that stops the decay and anchors their frequency to the cells. This is the sole purpose of the adrenochrome trade. This compound, harvested from the adrenalized blood of a terrorized victim, acts as a super heavy water. It dopes the cells. It lowers the vibration of the biological suit to match the vibration of the parasite. Without a regular infusion of this substance, the host body would disintegrate within weeks. When you see a world leader disappear for 10 days and return looking 20 years younger, they have not been to a spa. They have been to the tank. They have refueled. There is one glitch they cannot fix with chemicals: the aura. A human being emits a toroidal field of electromagnetic energy generated by the heart. This field broadcasts warmth, empathy, and connection. The reptilian entity has no heart chakra. They are cold-blooded, both physically and metaphysically. Animals and children can sense this instantly. Watch how dogs react to certain politicians. Watch how infants recoil when held by them. They are not reacting to the face. They are reacting to the void. They sense the predator. The entity can mimic a smile. It can read a script about compassion, but it cannot generate the frequency of love. It is mechanically impossible for them. They are actors wearing a meat suit, and their performance is entirely intellectual. They study human behavior like a scientist studies insects, mimicking the movements but never feeling the emotion. This is the uncanny valley feeling you get. Your soul knows there is no one home. For centuries, they hid in the shadows, but technology has become their enemy. High-definition cameras, 4,000 pixel resolution, and slow-motion replay are making it impossible for them to hide the glitches. The veil is lifting, not because of magic, but because of bandwidth. But there is a bigger threat to them than cameras. There is a frequency shift happening on the planet right now. The Earth itself is raising its vibration, moving from the 3rd density into the 4th. This shift is turning the atmosphere into poison for the entities. They are panicking. They are rushing their agenda because their environment is becoming uninhabitable.
Okay, check this real quick. Watch this. Hold on.
Mr. President.
Hold up. This is kind of creepy.
My husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. Mr. President, my husband loved you. And he knew that you loved him too. He did. Your friendship was amazing. Mr.
What the hazy, bro?
Until you walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yes, I'll guard my words. The I don't know portion of where I sit today, which I'm very...
And I was standing in the ticket line.
Look at her eyes, dude.
No, of course. But we serve a just God. And I rest easy in knowing that He's sovereign, but He's just. And so let the Lord handle that. Can I have one thing?
Wow.
Can I have one thing?
The enemy would love for me to be angry. He would love it.
It's what, the conspiracy collection? Get it before Christmas. Like, rally the troops, burn the city down.
All right. I hope that music does not cause an issue, but
The final
you
section,
guys get the
we will
point.
explain the frequency war and why the elite are so desperate to lower the collective vibration of humanity before the clock runs out. We are in the final phase of the war. You feel it. The tension in the air, the acceleration of time. This is not just political instability. This is a geomagnetic event. For thousands of years, the Earth's heartbeat, the Schumann resonance, vibrated steadily at 7.83 Hertz. It was a standing wave that locked our reality in place. But in the last decade, observatories in Russia and Germany have recorded unprecedented spikes. We are seeing sustained frequencies of 30, 40, and even 100 Hertz. To a human, this rising frequency feels like an awakening. It stimulates the pineal gland. It forces the truth to surface. But to the entities, it is radiation. They operate on a low-frequency band of fear and control. As the Earth raises its vibration, their environment is becoming caustic. They are like deep-sea creatures being dragged to the surface. The light burns them. The pressure drop destroys them. This explains their panic. This explains the desperate rush to implement total control, to blot out the sun, to lock down the planet. They are not trying to save the world. They are trying to terraform it back into a dungeon because they can no longer breathe the air. The elite know their time is short. Their only strategy left is to drag you down with them. They need to lower your personal frequency to match their dying timeline. They do this by manufacturing fear. Every new
Okay, so this goes into a bunch of other stuff, but I don't know. There's something creepy, something weird, something strange going on that the average person can just not explain. We're all trying to put our finger on something, and I don't know. I do a lot of just independent research, just researching things. I've paid for YouTube Premium for the longest, so I don't get all these ads that interrupt me watching different videos. So I could watch a gang of videos, skim through a gang of things, and come across more information on a day-to-day basis than the average person that has to deal with ads, at least with YouTube. So, I mean, this is just two separate videos that I've seen this week that I thought, let me do a video, tie them together, and just package it for you guys to see as quick as possible. It's kind of hard because each video, like this one is 35 minutes and this video is 40 minutes. So a bit under 30 minutes or an hour, doing as best I can. But I don't know, guys, let me know in the comments what you think. Hit like, hit subscribe. I never asked that, so hit that. I'll post the link to this up on my last video that I did. So I posted the Candace Owens X Spaces reaction. That's doing fairly well. I didn't do a reaction. I just posted edits of her response. And they was messing with her live stream because it kept cutting out. You had to exit and keep rejoining. It would just like randomly just do it, and then it'd stop, and it would do it. So it was real hard to try to capture the whole thing. But I don't know. I've watched a few videos of mediums and psychics speaking on, because like what a lot of them say, they astral project or they go read the energy. So if your soul and your spirit, you leave this body and you pass on to wherever. I don't know where we go when we die, when we leave this body. I don't know. But they say they go and they follow and read the energy. So they'll seek out the energy of that person or that human or whoever, and they read the energy, and then that person's consciousness can communicate. If you tune in on the right frequency, they can communicate if you have the right tools or are open up. Like a lot of people are born like this to where they have a psychic ability, or they have a near-death experience to where they die. They come back to life after being dead for however long. And then now they have these gifts to where they can tap into things that we can't see or we can't hear. Like I said, the human ear only hears 20 to 20,000 hertz. Now, the sound range is more than that. There's more sound range. This video said that these entities operate from a 5 to 7 hertz. Like that's the operational on the frequency that they vibrate at. 5 to 7 hertz is super, super low. So depression, anxiety, anger, all those emotions are low vibration emotions. Emotions of love, happiness, excitement are all higher vibrations. So everything we do is vibration. I mean, all this is. And then so the light spectrum is a spectrum, and we only see a small slither of the light spectrum. If I pull up a light spectrum chart, let me try this. Because like when I try to explain stuff like this to people, people are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You make no sense. SP light spectrum. All right, right here. So this is like, just to break it down as an analogy to give you a visual. This is the light spectrum. This is the visible light spectrum. So right here. So I can make this full. Why did it go away? There it goes. No, get this out of here. So we can only see 380 to 650. I don't know if that's nanometers or what that is, but you got gamma and X-rays, which is further down the spectrum here, which we know X-rays is a real thing. That's what they use to like be able to see like your bones and your organs and stuff like that. Then you have UVC rays, UVB, UVA, and then above on the higher frequency, IRA, IRB, and IRC. 3001 millimeters, 7.8, infrared, and then you have microwaves and then radio waves. We know microwaves are real. We know radio waves are real. Radio waves, like I said earlier, we communicate on it. So if this is the whole light spectrum and we can only see a sliver of that light spectrum, what else resides on the rest of the spectrum down here and up here? The same with hearing. We only hear 20 to 20,000 hertz. I know this because I work in music. So you know when you're manipulating audio, you can only manipulate, and the tools only allow you to manipulate between 20 and 20,000 hertz because that's all we hear. Dogs hear a higher spectrum of that. So we know that there's more out there than what the human body can analyze. Is my whole point for my rant. That's it. So just take that in mind. Like, if you don't have an open mind for this, I get it. I understand. Like, if you're a basic, simple-minded thinking person and you can't see past your front door, like, I get it, bro. It is what it is, man. This video ain't for you, or maybe this video is to help wake you up to try to understand things that you can't explain or you can't see. But like I said, when a person comes to a point in life and has spiritual discernment, you start to see and feel things different than your everyday average person that is just walking around living in the physical. You drive a car, you're walking, you wake up, you sleep, you eat, go outside, you go to the beach, whatever it is, man. There's more to life than the physical is my whole point. But it's your boy D. I'll put the links to both these videos below, and I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good